I want to bring you a disturbing story out of the Eastern Cape where fears of evil spirits have led to the closure of a school in Makhanda. It's alleged that dozens of pupils started to show strange behavior. Pupils in matric and mostly girls were affected. That school was then closed for religious leaders to come in and pray as well as to cleanse the facility. But some may even ask that, do evil spirits exist? And if they do, how does one go about dealing with them? We can speak about this with Mkhulu Makhanya, who's a Sangoma, to share his understanding on the issue. Mkhulu Makhanya, very good afternoon to you. We're grateful for your time. When you look at a story like this, how common are these sort of incidents?
Greetings, afternoon. These stories are quite common, well, not only to South Africa, but also across the world. The story of or the reality of evil spirits existing among us is actually factual. It is just that then it has not received media coverage, perhaps, or it's not something that we easily talk about. However, obviously, in our cycle of work, it is something that we deal with on a regular basis. And yes, it does exist.
And there will be some among us who say, well, I simply don't believe that they do. What if there's another reason in science for the pupils to have been exhibiting strange behavior? How do we decide that it was an evil spirit that caused the odd behavior?
So obviously you would need people who are in the spiritual space, who can also provide actually scientific evidence of evil spirits. I mean, we do have what is called ghosts, or what we know as ghosts, appearing on camera. There are people, for example, who have been infected, by a ghost, and, they experience certain pains in the bodies, and when you go for x-rays, and you can actually see presences of spirit in people's energy or in their bodies. So it is something that would require then we speak to spiritualists or people who work in the space of spirituality for them to assist us in diagnosing some of these challenges.
And then on assistance, how would someone such as yourself, who's a Sangoma, a traditional healer, work with the doctors and the government officials to reach common ground and help people such as these in the best way possible?
So obviously one would need to give their feedback. I would need to diagnose this space to say, okay, spirits that behave in this particular manner normally stands for this, or this is what they are wanting in a given space or in the life of a particular individual. So for example, you get individuals who walk into malls and they take out a gun and they start shooting everyone. Science or Western psychology says that person is possibly mentally disturbed and they need to be looked into, be given medication, and they could be taken care of. But in our space, we have what is called spiritual attachment. Spiritual attachment basically is people who have passed or who have died, and they refuse to transition to the next world. So consulting them with a Sangoma, they'll be able to tell you, okay, a spirit that behaves in this particular manner, chances are this is what they're looking for, this is how you appease it, and this is how you actually cleanse a space, an individual, or an institution such as a school, in getting rid of such an energy.
Where does dark spirits or being possessed by dark spirits end, and where does being mentally ill begin?
So, for example, with our practice, when we heal someone, it is a holistic approach. So when someone, for example, is mentally disturbed or mentally challenged, then it's important for us to look into where they come from, where they live, the kind of lifestyle that they lead, and what they have been eating, etc. And then in doing that kind of research, then we find it's okay, someone has been leading a pretty safe or clean life, then you look into issues of depression, mental illnesses, also looking into the type of lifestyle that they lead. So it is really through following a process of diagnosis to try to follow what is it that one is exposing themselves to, or what is it that one is exposed to, for us to be able to say, okay, you're suffering from mental illness caused by stress, or the fact that you are exposed to workspaces that involved working with a lot of people, because attaching spirits roam a lot in crowded spaces, malls, churches, beer places, party places, churches as well. So you would really need to find a profile of someone for you to actually come to a conclusive decision as to why they probably are mentally disturbed.
And very quickly, common perception is that this sort of incident is one we'd hear about in largely rural spaces. Is that the reality?
Sorry, ma'am, could you please repeat that for me?
Common perception, I was saying, is that these are sort of things that would happen in rural setups, but is that reality?
Look, if you look into different spaces, rural areas, urban areas, you will find that there's a presence of evil spirits, but it does not express itself the same way. So you will find that if you go into the urban spaces, addiction to alcohol and drugs, it is one of the ways in which the evil spirit expresses itself. And issues of, people took drugs, next thing, stabbing each other, drag racing, people dying. It is one way in which it expresses itself. However, when you then look into rural areas, then it has a different personality or a different way of expressing itself. So for me, it's really not limited to the rural places.
Thank you very much for that. Mkhulu Makanya speaking to us about an incident in the Eastern Cape at a school where mostly matric pupils and female pupils, in fact, are said to have been possessed by spirits. That school was later closed and religious and traditional leaders brought in to cleanse the facility. You may also have heard there. Not the first time I've been addressed as ma'am on air. Thank you very much for that.